rush to get here at all? Okay. Okay. I did a little bit because I was planning on getting here at 9:30 and it's like, ah! I was telling my husband he's getting ready to go back on the river today. So anyway, what do you notice when you feel a little rushed or stressed?
Increased heart rate.
Yeah.
Sweaty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flushed.
Yeah, you can feel it in your body. Okay, and so that's a little bit what we're going to be talking about. One of the main causes of disease, or just not feeling at ease, not feeling, they call it sometimes in resonance, your body in resonance. That when we feel rushed, when we feel stressed, when everything's seem to be going a little bit not what you planned on them going as, it produces this flood of chemicals in your body because the autonomic nervous system, which is that part of our nervous system that functions whether we're consciously dealing with it or not, is designed to bring balance to our body, to bring homeostasis, to bring equilibrium. And so when we're feeling a little bit rushed or whatever, your what's called the sympathetic nervous system, who knows about this what I'm talking about? Probably most of us have an idea. So I won't go into it too much, but obviously that starts working overtime and producing all these chemicals and hormones in your body. And then when we relax afterwards, they dissipate and we move into what's called the parasympathetic response, where our body now has time to heal itself, to bring balance. So balance is the key to our healthy living, the balance of these two nervous systems, and other body systems are also coming back into balance. And coincidentally or not, the whole system of yoga is about the same thing. It's about trying to find balance. And I'm sure you all know that as well. There's not just the balance of balancing poses and whatnot, but it's bringing a balance of, I brought the yin-yang thing, the yin-yang symbol that I'm sure you've all seen. One side's black, one side's white, and the white has a dot of black in it and vice versa. Do you want to speak to that at all? Yeah. So anyway, the idea is that's what we're trying to go for. That's what we're trying to find in our yoga practice. You might think of it as, we're trying to get all peaceful and all that, and it's true. We do want to feel more peaceful, and especially because lots of times we're functioning in that state of being that is not peaceful, that is more in the sympathetic. So a lot of our practices, like the ones we're going to be dealing with today, are more oriented to calming us down, bringing us into that state of being, that parasympathetic response where we can find a balance in our body. Our body is happier. It's like someone equated it to, we'll talk about a car. So your parasympathetic response is kind of like putting the brakes on, and it's taking care of things internally. The sympathetic is the accelerator. We got to hurry up, we're late, we got to hurry, we got to do this, we got to do that. So if you think of that going on all the time, if there's a balance in those two, the accelerator and the brake, that car is functioning better. It's a more finely tuned, sophisticated entity. Now our body is, of course, much more sophisticated than any machine or car, but that is just a really rough analogy of what's going on within us as we move. So the practices that we are focusing on today, meditation, breathing, yin, they're all oriented towards that goal of helping to bring balance, but most of the time it's going to be to try to get us into that more quiet situation. Okay? So with that said, let's just take a couple cycles of breath, and you can close your eyes or not. And this comes from, I brought a whole bunch of books. Oh, they're in a big sack someplace. I think it's still out there. But some of the books that I brought are some of my favorite about meditation and what it does to you physiologically. And this one comes from a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's one of my favorite writers, and it is just No Mud, No Lotus is the title of it. And this one, we start out like this with our eyes closed and just feeling safe. Again, when you're in the parasympathetic response, you usually feel safe. When you're in the sympathetic, lots of times you don't feel safe. So it might be that you visualize yourself completely in a spot that feels safe. You might feel yourself kind of snuggling into the surface beneath you a little bit more. Take a deep inhale, hold it for a moment, and then take a big exhale out the mouth. And then we're going to do a few steps in this Thich Nhat Hanh meditation. So it's quite simple. It goes like this. As I inhale, I'm aware that I'm inhaling. As I exhale, I'm aware that I'm exhaling. It doesn't matter how long you inhale or how long you exhale, just feel yourself breathing and reciting that mantra to yourself. As I breathe in, I'm aware that I'm inhaling. As I breathe out, I'm aware that I'm breathing out. As I breathe in, I'm aware of my full in-breath. As I breathe out, I'm aware of my full out-breath. I breathe in, I'm aware of my body. I breathe out, I'm aware of my body. As I breathe in, I calm my body. As I breathe out, I calm my body. Take 5 more cycles of breath, and there might be one of those mantras that you want to go back to, or you might have your own that you'd like to breathe in and breathe out. And just allow yourself to settle here and listen. I'm reading something from the Tao Te Ching, which was written about 2,000 or more years ago, Lao Tzu. The Tao produces unity. Unity produces duality. Duality produces trinity. Trinity produces all things. All things contain both the negative principle, yin, and the positive principle, yang. The third principle, energetic vitality, qi, makes them harmonious. There are some things which it is a gain to lose and a loss to gain. This may not be what they teach in school, but it is the first lesson in the Tao. And then you can just open your eyes and we will begin our practice. So I just want to do that kind of little introduction.
So Debbie, as I was being aware of my body, I'm like, I am really hot.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else, I don't know how to turn these on.
Oh, I do know that there's a, Carrie, do you know? She got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a noisy little thing.
There are other fans if anybody needs it.
Yeah, so there's more, and we can turn it down in a bit, but it was getting a little hot in here. And I'm glad that you opened that door. Okay, so Qi is energy in Chinese medicine, which what the Tao is about, and acupuncture and whatnot like that, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going here to begin with because a lot of Yin Yoga, it hails from the more Chinese medicine perspective, correct? And again, I mentioned that circle that you see, half white, half black, with the spots on each of those. And the idea is that Qi in yoga is prana. And what we're trying to do in both Chinese medicine and the activities like Qi, different Chinese practices like that, is to help promote, help disseminate, help draw in more Qi. And in yoga, it's the same, only we call it prana. So that goes along with that physiological stuff I was saying at the beginning, because when we are in resonance, when we have a balance, when we have homeostasis, when we're balancing the brake and the accelerator, prana is more likely to be able to distribute within our body, and we're more likely to be able to take it in and to let it go. So prana is very, very important in yoga. I don't want to put Chuck on the spot or anything like that, but I don't know if you have anything to say about that as far as poor Chuck. He came in and now I've made him the expert on all things Chinese.
I'll take the pressure off a little bit so you have time to gather your thoughts. But it's really interesting what Debbie said. We know that, I think most of us are familiar with that concept of prana, and if you trace the roots back with yoga philosophy, it kind of there's branching from Hinduism and kind of from the Indian, from the Indian subcontinent. And you're like, well, how do we get to yin in this Chinese thing? And it's interesting because there are the Chinese practices under Taoism that have existed for 2,000 years. And it's only relatively recently in the West where some of the people practicing this more prana-based yoga started combining. There was a Paul Grilly was one of the first people back in the 70s and 80s, and he was doing both some of the Chinese martial arts and yoga, and he saw this interweaving of the two. It's movement and meditation and energy, but they're coming from completely different parts of the world, and he began to marry them together. And then there's a lineage, from him through Sarah Powers to Bernie Clark. These were kind of the senior teachers in yoga, but they kept kind of layering this together until right now we have this. It's kind of a Western practice called yin. It's marrying the two, that Hindu background and the Chinese background.
So when I hear prana, I think breath. So I don't know why, but like pranayama.
No, it's exact. You're right on, and I'm glad you brought that up. Prana is not breath, but because it's life force. Prana means life force. Qi means life force. But usually it's accessed via the breath. And the breath is like the intermediary between the conscious and the subconscious and the mind and the body. In yoga philosophy, and we were learning about the different layers of who we are. We have our outer layer, which is our body. Then comes the next layer in like Russian dolls, that are stacked like that, stacking dolls. So the outer layer is the body. The next layer in is your breath. And the next layer in is your mind. And it's that the breath is linking the two of them.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's more than a breath, but the breath is how it
you see it.
And Debbie, another thought about the breath, when you were talking about the importance of the parasympathetic nervous system in our bodies and us, I thought, how many of you have heard of the vagus nerve or the vagal nerve? Yeah, it's in the press now. I think 30 years ago, though, it wasn't really, but it's this really amazing key nerve that starts at the base of the brain and goes down. And it's not responsible for our intentional movements, but it's responsible for our digestion, our bladder, like kind of all the things that we do when we're resting and digesting. Well, I'd say it's relatively recent. I don't know, but
No,
this is like I'm fascinated by the mixing of like what Western medicine is finding and how it fits with these ancient philosophies. They're finding that the exhale is more associated with activating the vagal nerve. So if you think about hyperventilating, that kind of like, if I'm anxious and I pay attention to my breath, I'm hyperventilating. I can give myself a panic attack by hyperventilating too much. On the other hand, if I'm feeling kind of lethargic, I can bring some energy in that way. But if I really want to calm, I'm going to focus more on my exhale, maybe prolonging it just a millisecond, or maybe if I'm starting to feel anxious, even doing a double exhale, because helps to activate the vagal nervous system, that parasympathetic nervous system. It's actually a tool that you can have in your bag. Because to be quite honest, if any of you are teaching, people who are new to the breath work, it can make us anxious, bringing that attention to the inhale and exhale. Some of us, not everybody. I know when I first started, it made me anxious. But learning that, I can prolong the exhale, I can do that double exhale, and knowing I'm activating my rest and digest system.
Yeah.
It kind of all made sense to me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Exactly. So that's such a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah.
And to
Right
think
off
that
the
these
top.
ancient philosophies 2,000 years ago were kind of like intuitive. We already knew this.
Yeah.
With the breath.
It's just been great. And exactly what you're saying. To take the stuff that yoga history goes back 4,000 years that we know of because of the different chants that they had. Not chants, but emphasizing the chants that they had that talk about the beautiful flowing Saraswati River, and it dried up 2000 BCE. So we know that there were chants about yoga because there are things that have to do with this, finding the balance in life, and the energy of the sun brings energy within us. So there were people chanting about that back, before the river dried up. So,
and some of those chants, people study this, some of those chants are such that you breathe 7 times a minute. And that's the same with Ave Maria and other, I can't remember if it's Our Father, but some of the other prayers or rituals that we see from different cultures, it's 7 breaths a minute, which is really, it's scuba diving. It's 7 breaths a minute where you really get into this deep meditative state.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of links in a lot of these things. This is a mala, a very tiny little mala, but which also, it has 108 beads on it, just like a rosary has 108 beads, and it's going through, and that's considered an auspicious number, and there's lots of stuff about that. But yeah, this stuff has merged over thousands of years, and it's really cool that now we're going, we're finding empirical support for what's been discovered by people so long ago. And probably the reason people, say, well, how could they have done all that without any of the equipment that we have now? But probably that's the point of meditation. One of the points of meditation is becoming more in tune with yourself, with your inner world and the outer world as well. Just more in tune with, the sun. The sun's gone now. What happened? And, eclipses and full moons, and it was just a time that perhaps there were less distractions, although there's always been distractions. That's why yoga was invented, to help us deal with the roller coaster of life, with the fact that nothing can be held onto, nothing is permanent. And in the Buddhist philosophy, that's, there's the Four Noble Truths. And the first one is there's suffering. And suffering is, the second truth is suffering is caused by our own reaction to the fact that we can't accept that there's impermanence, that it's just like we want to hang on, we want to grasp and all that. So it's hard. We all, it's not easy. It is suffering. But the third or fourth noble truth is that we can learn to accept it, and that's the path out of suffering. So again, all these are really tying together. I think the time of around 600 BCE, which was around when the Tao was written, the Yoga Sutras are written, the Buddha philosophy started really flowering, it seems like that all that stuff happened around in that same period, 600 to 200 BCE. So, yeah. Yes.
I thought something just came up for me was that one of the, I think, beautiful things that to share with kids or anyone is that breath is free. We can all
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah. That's a great thought. I'm going to repeat what she said because I didn't know if the people that will watch us later, but she said, yeah, it's a free thing. It's so accessible. You don't have to go to the store or get a prescription or whatever. Our breath, in fact, can affect the brain in such a way by calming us down that your brain goes, hey, this person's feeling good. Let's send out the endorphins and all the other feel-good stuff. It's like your brain is like a drugstore that doesn't care if it's real or not. If your body's requesting it, it's going to send that stuff out. And I'm getting that when I said if it's real or not. I teach laugh yoga sometimes, and so I did a little bit of research on that. And it's that if you're going like this, your brain's like, oh, okay, it's time to send out the dopamines, and if you're like this, then likewise. So they kind of fake it till you make it, and it's free. You don't have to go to the drugstore. So yeah, it's kind of a smile and breathing. All this stuff it's free.
I love that thought that it not only is it free, but it's always there. So
Yes.
the senior yin yoga teachers will say there's 4 different ways that you can affect your chi. Acupuncture, not readily available to all of us. Acupuncture, acupressure, which is part of yin yoga. Awareness of your physical sensations and your breath. And the breath not only is free, it's always there. I'm in the grocery store line, I'm a little irritated because there's 5 people, I got my breath. It's always there. I'm at a red light, it's always there.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool comment.
Yeah.
you made.
It's like your best friend. I think there's some chants that talk about it, that or some Rumi poetry or whatever, that talks about this kind of thing, that it can be your best friend. I think Susan Salzberg. Does anybody listen to meditations? You do Insight Timer. Oh, I know. Insight Timer is so great and allows you to study with people. Again, free. It's free, and you can do Susan Salzberg, who does retreats all over the world, but you can just access it. And she says she has a meditation where we'd be sitting here, or she's talking to you, and she said your breath is like your best friend. It's like you go to a party with your best friend, and you don't have to constantly always be talking to them or holding their hand or whatever, but you know they're there, and you might make eye contact, you might check in a little deeper, but you know that they're always there with you, and I just think that's kind of a nice metaphor.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Because lots of things are coming together. So you said Rumi, and before you said it, I was thinking of something he said, because you were talking about the 4 principles of impermanence.
Yeah.
And he has it's probably in one of his poems, but it's life is a balance between holding on and letting go. And that also ties in with breath, because you're
Yeah.
letting go.
Yeah.
So it's all.
Yeah. Yeah, let's all write that one down.
Yeah.
It's Rumi.
Yeah. And that made me think. See, that's what's so good. I just started to talk. When you were talking, is animals. There's a book, so I don't know, Zelinsky, I'm going to say, some name ends with ski. He wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Sapolsky, is that? Sapolsky, okay, thank you. And he cites an example of the cameras that they had in the wild of animals, and the one is of an opossum, that when a predator enters the scene, enters the camera's view, the possum plays a possum, freezes and is like that, and then when the predator is gone, the possum literally shakes it off. They just shake, and then you walk off and everything's normal. And the point is, a lot of in